Hello and welcome to the Blue Water Running Podcast. I'm your host, Maren, and this podcast features and celebrates the achievements of high school and collegiate cross-country and track and field athletes from the Blue Water area of Michigan. You can follow Blue Water Running on Instagram, X, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube. You can also find meet and athlete reports and articles and a merch shop at www.bluewaterrunning.org. In April 2022, the Macomb Community College Athletics Department hired Matt Fecht as the head men's and women's cross-country coach. He came from Wayne State University, where he was the assistant coach, and is an accomplished runner himself. He was a 2002 All-American, and his team placed in the top 10 at the MCCAA Championships. He went on to run for Wayne State after competing for MCC, and was a three-time national championship qualifier and an NCAA D2 All-American in 2005, taking 30th place. His 8K and 10K cross-country PRs stand at 25:34 and 31:50, respectively. After college, he ran as a sponsored professional runner, qualifying for the Olympic Marathon Trials in 2012, 2016, and 2020, with a marathon PR of 2:17 and a half marathon PR of 1:06. For the high school runners listening, he ran at Warren Mott High School, where he currently teaches and coaches, and set the school record at that time during his senior year in 16:12. While at MCC, Fecht has led the program to new successes. For the first time since 1996, the men's program won the MCCAA Eastern Conference Championship, along with a second-place finish at the Regional 12 Championship, which qualified them for the national meet, where they finished in the top 10 teams. The women's team qualified 2 individuals to the national meet, and Ava LaMilza was the MCCAA Eastern Conference Runner of the Year. As posted on the MCC Athletics website, Fecht had this to say about his position. Having started my career here, coaching at Macomb is sort of like a homecoming for me. While at Macomb, I was able to grow and have success at the national level and ultimately transfer on scholarship to a 4-year institution. Had it not been for the opportunity I was afforded at Macomb, I don't think I would have gone on to have the success I was able to in both my collegiate career and my professional running career. It will be my goal to provide future Monarchs the same opportunities I was afforded, both in the classroom and on the course. In this episode, Matt will give us insight into the growth and vision of the program, the benefits of running for a community college team, and what experiences students can expect as MCC athletes in the cross-country or track program. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Blue Water Running Podcast. I got to chat with the SC4 coaches, and I wanted to make sure that we gave Macomb Community College the same airtime because both of you are doing great things with community college programs. So I'm excited to have you on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so let's start out by asking you about how you first came into running as a sport. Tell us your background as a runner personally, and then recap your journey a little bit as to how you ended up at MCC as a coach and deciding to lead that program.
Yeah, so man, I always describe myself as an athlete that kind of got good at running. Never had any intentions to be a runner. That was like one of the most painful things you could do was run when I was a kid, growing up playing baseball and hockey. But in 9th grade, my brother's buddy told me, hey, why don't you come do this cross country thing? I'm like, what's that? He's like, well, we run and, you race. I'm like, I guess talked it over with my dad, thought it would be a good idea to get in shape for hockey, and started out running about, I think my freshman year in high school, PR was like 32 minutes for the 5K or something like that. Was just kind of out there jogging and not really taking it too serious, just trying to get in shape for my other sports. And then had a conversation with my dad, I think going into my junior year, and he's like, I'm not going to come watch you run anymore. What are you doing out there? He's like, you're just jogging in the back. Why don't you try and be good at this thing? So I, started running a little bit more and ended up getting pretty good. I think 17 flat-ish, qualified for the state meet my junior year, and then went back to states my senior year. 16, 12, I think was my PR. And still wasn't sure had some college offers, wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Still thought I was going to be a hockey player, but 5 foot tall, 103 pound, not too many hockey players rolling around that size. So I think after a few no's in the minor leagues and things of that nature getting cut, it was time to kind of go back to running, and I had thrown all my scholarships away. So, excuse me, I had to start back at Macomb and kind of walk onto that program. So it kind of ends up being full circle here. Ran for Macomb for a year, became an All-American in cross country my freshman year at Macomb, then transferred down to Wayne State, where I was fortunate enough to be on a team with a group of really great guys. I think we were 7th, 15th, and 6th in the country as a team. And then my senior year, I made All-American in cross country as well. So kind of never thought I would be, a runner. And then it went post collegiately, and you get talked into running these marathon things that everybody was talking about. Decided, let's see what we can do in that. Ended up being pretty okay at that, and was a 3-time Olympic trials qualifier in the marathon, 12, 16, and 20, with a 2:17:30 PR in the marathon. So I was kind of high school teaching, coaching, helping coach at Wayne State, and doing my own professional running thing. That kind of ended around coaching at Wayne State at around 2017, 18. Then 3 years ago, saw the posting coming up for Macomb. Like, let's get back into college coaching, and applied, and here we are, three years later.
Yeah, that's quite a journey.
Yeah, it's kind of full circle to come back and start coaching again. Like I said, at Macomb, where I got my first real start at college and college running, and trying to take that opportunity that I was afforded, and take that and give that to some of the kids as well. And look, just because you're at a community college doesn't mean you can't be a good runner, or that you're not a good runner. Especially nowadays with the new NCAA rules coming in with the roster limits at D1, and the talks of the roster limits coming into D2 as well. I think the community college path is a lot smarter for kids these days, but they also have all these cell phones that they walk around with all day, and it's a status thing on social media that you have to be a D1 runner or whatever. You might as well not do it, but your journey doesn't have to start at D1 to get to D1.
Yes, agreed. I have a desire through this podcast to kind of break that stigma, and that's one of the reasons I like to cover community college. It's a great option for a lot of students, both financially, but also athletically. If you're not really sure what you want to do, or you're still trying to figure out who you are as a runner, it's a great place to do that with a lot of minimal risk, where if you go straight into a D1 program, there's intense pressure from the get-go. And like you said, new rules are coming into play. And we're seeing that also at the NAIA level, a lot of trickle down from athletes who thought they would be D1, but aren't sure they're going to get a roster spot now. And that's driving the competition at the, D2, D3, NAIA, and also community college levels, where it's just kind of picking up the pace for everyone.
Yeah, I think this year with that rule fully going into effect, there's not a lot of high school kids that are fully aware of that and what that actually means. And
yes,
some of them are starting to get that dose of reality real quick. And now it becomes, I think, more in that Division I arena, where you're not really an athlete anymore. You're more of a commodity. And
yes.
if you can't do anything for me, I'm getting rid of you. And that's kind of a terrible way to look at things. But I think that's the way the sport of track and field and cross country is heading with these roster limits.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever listened to the Running Effect podcast. Yeah, he's done a couple interviews. The last one I just listened to was with the Liberty University coach, who's been a pretty big advocate not to implement those rules, and why. But it was interesting because he was saying, if you're going to be able to get an international student who can run really fast times right out of the gate, you're
Yep.
going to give them a spot over an American kid who has yet to do that, which is
Yep.
very unfortunate for the growth of
Yeah.
our sport.
Yep.
But reality, like you said. So I know we discussed, my daughter is a senior this year, and we've been throwing around
Mhm.
options. And I think that the idea of community college is different now for a lot of kids when they
Mhm.
see I could save a lot of money, I could still run. So
Yep.
hopefully that's a good thing because it builds your community within your community. So
Yeah, and I think that the community colleges in Michigan here have done a really good job with our region and our conference of trying to take that stigma of it just being, you know, it's just a bunch of people that can't run are going to community college, and it's just, it looks dumb.
mhm.
But I think we've done a really good job to promote that and to try and grow track and field in it, and bring that back on a conference and regional level, uh, and really show that, hey, there's a lot of good teams here and a lot of good runners in not only Michigan and community colleges, but that are going on to other 4-year universities from all of these programs.
Yes. Well, and I think too, when you look back at the history of the sport, you have to start somewhere. And so when
Mhm.
girls first started participating in sports at the same equal level as boys after Title IX, they had very different achievements than we do
Yeah.
now. I mean, it's a very level playing field now, but
Yep.
that's kind of where community college started off. So eventually,
Mhm.
I think there'll be a catch up and you'll see pretty equal times across the board, which is exciting because, iron sharpens iron. So,
Yes, definitely.
yeah.
And again, you race all these people, whether you're going to the University of Michigan or you're going to Macomb Community College, you show up to a certain invitational, you're running all these people anyway.
Yes.
It's not like you get split up into different races. Obviously some of the bigger invitationals are split up. Uh, but you look at a school like Grand Valley, in Division 2 could probably take out half of the ranked teams in Division 1.
Yes. Yeah.
So I always tell kids, the list of Division 1 runners that beat me in my college career is a lot shorter than the list of Division 1 runners that I beat in my college career.
Hmm.
So don't let that stigma or that status, stop you from getting ahead in your not only your education, but financially too.
Right.
Especially with Michigan, you have the community college guarantee, so everybody's pretty much getting free community college as it is right now. And even if you're not, it's a very cheap alternative to take the same classes that you're going to take wherever you're going to choose to go.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you can get a lot of your, initial credits out of the way that you have to have
Mhm.
your gen eds and all that. So yeah, great options
Mhm.
for many students. And don't go into a lifetime of debt if you can avoid
Yeah,
it, because unless it's
definitely.
really, really something you have to do, I just
Yeah.
it's not the way you want to enter into adulthood. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, both of your teams had a fantastic cross country season. The men's team, several members of the women's team qualified and ran at the national meet. So tell
Mhm.
us what that experience was like, any of your main takeaways, and then what you're looking forward to as you move into next fall season.
Yeah. So we'll start on the women's side. Um, Emma and Aaron both qualified as individuals to go to the national championships, which was exciting. That's the second year in a row that we've taken individuals. We're hoping to get a team out. If Ava LaMilza doesn't get injured this year, we probably go as a team. But she got a stress fracture during the year, and you lose the sixth kid in the nation from the year before. You can't manufacture that out of what you have usually. That's a special kid, and we're sad to lose her, but we're happy that she's finding a spot at Ferris State next year. But I think the experience that Aaron and Emma got to run on that national stage uh, is going to pay huge dividends for us next year.
Hmm.
Uh, with who we've been talking to so far, if we can bring a few of those kids in, with what those two were able to accomplish, man, we're gonna be pretty solid on that women's side next year, and probably looking to be a top 10 team in the nation like our guys were. Um, on the guys' side, kind of an up and down season all year for them. Um, we had a bunch of guys that had some offers from D1s and D2s, but they weren't the best offers, so they chose to come here. And I think they thought, oh, it's community college. I'm just going to walk away with all this. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not the case. And they got slapped in the face real quick. I think our opening meet was the pre-regional, and I got guys that were running 16 lows in high school that are getting beat by kids that ran in the 17s and 18s, and it was a really big wake-up call for them.
Mm-hmm.
I can try and explain that to these kids all I want, but to have that defeat and probably, putting myself in their position, probably some a little embarrassment of losing to kids that they beat in high school by 2 minutes, and then realizing, oh, I actually have to work and put in the work here. Uh, they grew tremendously throughout the season. Uh, Finished 10th in the nation. The Pemberthy twins,
Mm-hmm.
uh, both finished All-American, which was exciting. We had Ava last year as an All-American, and then to have two on the guys' side this year. First time that at Macomb that I've taken a guys' team to the national championships, and we're bringing 5 of the 7 back next year. Plus, with what we've already signed for next year, uh, look out, that 10th place is going to get a lot lower. We're looking closer to top 5. I think is going to be our goal for next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was one of my questions. Did you have a significant amount of returning athletes, which you've touched on, and then recruits as well?
Yeah, so we haven't officially signed anybody yet, but a lot of verbals. So wish I could get into those and who those kids are, but there'll be some familiar faces from around the area. And a couple, we reached into Oakland County as well
Mm-hmm.
to grab a couple on the guys' side. Uh, you know, make sure you're checking out our Instagram page because we're going to be announcing those hopefully soon. Been in contact with them, but we like to play by the rules and not publicize or put anything out there yet since nothing's official.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be really good again on that guy's side, and if we get a couple of these girls commits that we've had really good conversations with, uh, man, we could have 2 teams that are both top 10 in the nation, and potentially chasing that Lansing Community College that's always seems to be at the head of this conference in this region,
Mm-hmm.
chasing them down and giving them a run for it.
Yeah, my son runs for Spring Arbor, and he has a lot of teammates who came from LCC. So I know they've got a tradition of putting up pretty good athletes there.
Yes, yep, and I think they're gonna obviously continue to do that. Probably being a feeder school for Michigan State
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yep.
in the future here is going to help them. But we're not scared to race anybody on any Friday or Saturday, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yes. And for the guys listening, an 8K is a lot different than a 5K.
Yeah, you don't think that extra 2 miles is that big of a deal, but you really got to pay attention in the first half of that race and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of don't. I always say don't race it. You're out there working out the first half, and then the second half of that race, now it's time to work out and time to cut that workout out and time to start racing and set that front half up for that back half of that race. But yeah, and then once you get to that 10K,
Mm-hmm.
that's even expanded even more. So
Yeah, that's a whole different animal. Oh.
yes.
Yeah, I never raced a 6K when I ran, but I know the NAIA does kind of half and half throughout the season, and then the
Mhm.
championships are a 6K. So it takes some adjusting to get used to, especially mentally. Like you have
Oh,
this very definitive way of approaching your races, and then it completely changes.
yeah, we always try and throw one 6K in a year here at Macomb. The girls are like, "Well, but we don't have to race them." I'm like, I know you don't have to, but when you go someplace to your 4 year, you're gonna have to race 6Ks, and
Hmm.
you want to be able to show those coaches that you've already done it, and you're not a freshman all over again with that 6K. You have the experience of it.
Right, right. Well, that leads well into the next question, and that is, what does a typical week of training or practice consist of for athletes? I guess we could say in the cross country season, since track's obviously going to be different, but if you had to kind of pare it down to the basics, what are some things you guys really emphasize?
Yeah, so in our program, we're always going to have a Sunday long run. For guys, we're going anywhere from 10 probably up to 16. by the time they're sophomores, they'll be doing a 16-mile long run. Freshmen, we kind of keep them back to that just 10, 12, 14 area rotation. Girls would be 8, 10, 12, probably not getting to 12 till you're a sophomore, or if you're coming from a program that already runs significant mileage, we might get talked into it. Workout on Tuesday, usually strength. I'm very strength oriented with my philosophy and my program. We build a lot of strength, and then towards the end of the year, we really hammer in that speed, because I believe that you have to have the strength in order to have the speed, so you can do more repeats of that speed, and it really, takes hold. Wednesday's tempo time, and then Monday, Thursday, just we're out there looking at birds and trees and not really caring what our pace is too much, just getting the mileage in. And Friday or Saturday is going to be, pre-race or race day. Again, pay attention to the course, take any notes you need to take on it, have a little discussion, a little team meal, and that pretty much sums it up for us.
So the main campus for Macomb is in a pretty heavily populated area, and I'm assuming you do most of your training maybe somewhere else?
Actually, no, we do 90% of our runs are right from campus.
Okay.
Right there, our athletic campus is located at 12 and Hayes.
Okay.
So we'll do a fair amount of running from there. Our weekend long runs might be, the traditional Stony Creek, Paint Creek, those type of areas, Macomb Orchard Trail or something like that. But, I grew up at Wayne State, running through the city of Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something that toughens you up about running through some of these concrete areas. And yeah, there's a slight injury factor. We got to make sure we're doing our stretching, icing, rotating shoes as we need to. But I think there's something to be said of, not having all the glitz and the glamour of, we're on this rail trail every day, we're running hills every day and dirt roads. It'd be nice if we had all that stuff right in our backyard, which there are plenty of places in Macomb County to do that. But to have kids still be student athletes and not be, just parading them all over the place to get to some place to run, it would be a nice luxury to have. We don't have that capability, and I'm not going to have kids, driving an hour away, then driving back to get treatment or to work out, and whatnot. So, we use it as, like I did when I was an athlete at Wayne State, like a badge of honor. We don't have any of that stuff, and we're still going to beat you even though we don't have that stuff. We run on the cement, we run on the concrete every day. You're running by all the high schools and elementary schools and heavily crowded areas, and you're getting heckled like runners do. It's just part of the whole experience. And I think something that we try and get into our program of, hey, look, nobody's going to feel sorry for you because you're running on the concrete. Nobody's going to feel like, oh, we can't beat you because you're running dirt roads. End of the day, when you lace up the spikes, doesn't matter where you've been training, matters what you've been doing with that training. And we try and get that mentality into our kids and into our program.
Excellent. Good mindset. I like it. Well, as your student athletes are commuting and not living on campus for the most part, how do you organize and schedule practices for your athletes who obviously are going to have a variety of different class schedules, different drive times, etc.?
So we try and make practice the same time every day. And we let the kids know, well in advance, practice is going to be from 3 to 5. Make sure you're not blocking, or make sure you're not scheduling a class, during that time, and probably not within a half an hour before or a half an hour after, so that you can make sure that you're getting any pre-treatment or post-treatment that you need to get. You can jump in the ice. You actually have time to stretch and not running to class right from practice. So they kind of know well in advance when we're meeting, when we have practice. Things are going to come up with labs or having to retake a test because we might have been out of town or something like that. But in the past 3 years, we haven't had too many issues with it. Again, it's part of preparation and planning and making sure that we're paying attention to details so we don't have those issues.
Hmm. What do you do to build your team culture and your camaraderie when you have team members who are coming from separate communities, their own high school cultures with their high school team? How do you kind of combine all that together to create a unique atmosphere for the MCC team?
So again, we don't have dorms, so it's kind of hard. They don't get to live with each other like they do at some other community colleges or Division two, Division three, Division one NAI. They're living in dorms, so we have to really build that in the summer when we have more time to spend with each other. One of the first things that I always tell the kids when we first meet as a team is, I'm sure all your high school coaches are great, but you have to pretend like they're idiots for me. Just they have their own training. I have my own training philosophy. If you want to take some of theirs with some of mine, the system's not going to work. I'm glad that you had a good experience running for your coach, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what you did, but you're running for me now. You're running for Macomb. You're running for the way we do things here. And if you don't buy in 100%, you're never going to be good. Whether you think your coach is dumb or the smartest person in the world, if you're trying to, do what you did in high school and then something you saw on the social media and then some stuff that I did, it's never going to work. So we really pound into them. I don't claim to be the smartest person in the world or know the most know the most about running, but we have success here. I had success when I coached at Wayne State. So it's proven, a lot of it's backed in science, and we just tell them, hey, you got to buy in. And as soon as you buy in, you're going to start seeing those results.
Well, as you are a high school teacher, and do you
Yes,
coach high school as well?
I do.
Okay, that's a lot. Woo. So
Yeah.
my question is, how do you balance all of that? I mean, you have a full-time career outside of your responsibilities as a coach
Mhm.
at Macomb.
Yep. I'm really good at juggling. I think it goes back to the time I spent being a professional runner and the time I spent, being a student athlete. You have to be really regimented with how you're going to do things, scheduling things, having stuff written down. Um, because if I'm just doing stuff just to do it, I'm not going to be the best coach I can for these kids, no matter what I'm doing. Uh, we don't have a track, an outdoor track at Macomb Community College, so I bring the kids over to Warren Mott, where I coach high school track. Uh, the high school kids get to see these college kids working out. Some of my high school kids have beat some of these kids. Oh, I can run in college. Yeah, I've been telling you that. Now you can see that these kids are running in college, or when we start getting a couple track kids in, uh, you can compete in college, and we'll see what happens from there. It's also a way that we kind of get to give back a little bit too. Volunteering at the high school meets. Mott hosts two of the biggest meets usually a year. With the Macomb County meet, we go back and forth with the Codon who hosts it. Uh, and then we host two big invitationals throughout the year, and the kids get to volunteer and kind of give back and uh, for using the track, and it's a nice way for them to be involved and kind of show ourselves to the community as well that, hey, we're out here helping, and we're really trying to build a brand here at Macomb and take it back to the kind of the national powerhouse for community colleges that it used to be.
Hmm. I was wondering if your high school coaching has helped you with your recruiting, because I know recruiting for community college is a very different ballgame than a four-year institution, and your turnover is much higher.
Yeah, I mean you're never not recruiting in
Mhm.
community college. Just thinking back to my time at Wayne State coaching, it's like, okay, we got two really big classes. I'm just trying to fill one or two spots the next year. I can kind of relax a little bit, but even if I recruit you as a freshman or to come in as a freshman, you have a really good season, you might decide to go because a four-year institute called you and said, hey, we really want you and you got a good deal. And I'll be the first person to tell the kids to go. Uh, I don't expect kids to stay for 2 years. I didn't stay for 2 years, so how can I expect them to? If it's the right fit for you, if it's a good financial decision for you and your family, you need to go. Uh, so it does help, uh, seeing the kids all the time while I'm coaching in, track in high school and being able to interact with them probably a little bit more. And, you know, I already have a pretty good relationship with a lot of the cross country and track coaches in the Macomb County area, both having grown up in Macomb County and competed in Macomb County. And, some of them are still around from when I was competing in high school, but also from recruiting at Wayne State. And then, you know, from when I was running professionally, uh, knew a lot of these kids or competed against a lot of them that are coaching now. Uh, Kind of just, it's a big community, but it's really a small community when you get down to it. And at the end of the day, everybody just wants their kids to succeed and get an opportunity at the next level if they think they're ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think are some of the greatest advantages of attending community college versus going straight into a four-year institution?
I think a lot of times, especially on the guy side, the maturity is not where it needs to be quite yet for some of them. So they get another couple of years to grow up. Uh, Also, with the jump in mileage and in racing, uh, helps them out to where there's not that much pressure. I mean, we put pressure on, we want to be good, but you don't perform at a Division 1 or a Division 2, they don't have a whole lot of patience for you a lot of times, especially if they're trying to compete and go to nationals and for conference championships and whatnot. They're going to kind of kick you to the back of the line a little bit. Uh, Not to mention the financial aspects of it. One of my best friends played college football, and he's a high school teacher now, and the amount of debt that he has from doing that is just, I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. I was fortunate enough to know where I got scholarships at Wayne State, so I didn't have to pay too much. But again, being a teacher, we're not making millions.
Nope.
And if you're going to be wanting to start a family or do things, and you have those student loans, those things get harder and harder to do or more difficult, and you're trying to do a bunch of other things just to make ends meet. Uh, I think the advantages are, financially and we do have problems with a lot more anxiety in kids and some of those mental health issues that we have nowadays. They're more prevalent, where maybe back when I was in high school and in college, it was, hey, suck it up, you're fine. Now we know a lot more and we know better than to say that. So it gives kids a nice transition that might not be ready to move away from home, or might not be ready for that school of 50,000 people, or the expectations that are going to be on them at the college level. Even if you're successful in high school, that you're stepping up a whole another level
Mm-hmm.
going to that 4 year. So I think, just speaking for me, we make it a family and a community at Macomb. Uh, and you can be talented, but if I don't think you're a right fit for the family, you're not getting in.
Mm-hmm.
Because we want it to be a family, we want it to be a community, and someplace that everybody is always proud to say they came from and wants to come back to and hang out and talk to people.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that in mind, what is your big picture vision for both the cross country and track programs as you move forward?
So I think big picture, um, I would like to get a podium finish in cross country for the men, and a podium finish for the women. I set it out 3 years ago when I got hired. I set a 10-year goal that I needed to accomplish that within 10 years. We're 3 years in. We just qualified our first team to nationals, so I think we're moving in the right direction. 10th is a big accomplishment. I think we're going to be higher next year, and uh, I got to figure out a way to get enough talented women in here to get that to the next level as well. Uh, it's usually a little bit easier to recruit the guys than it is to recruit the women. Uh, just I don't know, maybe I relate with them a little bit better, but not having excuse me, not having a female coach on staff, I think hurts a little bit for me. As my assistant coach is a guy as well. So I think I got to figure out a different approach to get that women's side picked up just a little bit more. Try a few new things, and I think we're close. We need the right couple of people to say yes every year. And then with track and field, this is gradual. Um, I'm not trying to fill a 100-person track team. That's not the goal for this program. We want to bring in track athletes that can come from high school, come to us for a year or two, and are going to get picked up by a 4-year. Uh, you know, we want to have kids come in, but at the same time, we don't want getting too big to where we can't help them out. So it's kids that just need another couple years to show things, and not maybe as big of projects as we take on in cross country. Because again, we don't have, if I had an unlimited budget, yeah, we're building this thing as big as we can get it. But with the budget constraints that we have, a slow build, and we're going to be probably a little bit more picky with who we're bringing in.
Has Macomb always had track and field, or is that a newer addition?
So we had it back in the 90s and early 2000s, and it went away a couple years before COVID, I believe. And then I said, hey, I got kids asking me why they can't run track. Can we get track back? And the athletic director is like, we could. And I'm like, I'm not trying to start a 100-person team. Don't worry. I just want my cross country kids to have the opportunity to, be all conference again, or all region, or all American. Give them that opportunity, and college coaches want to see that stuff as well. So we got it back this year, and we, like I said, we kind of have a detailed plan of how we want to attack it. And it's no disrespect to throwers or jumpers or sprinters, but I don't have the resources to be able to coach all of that, or to bring in coaches to do a really good job with that. That being said, if a coach comes to me, and I have, like I said, I have a lot of good relationships in the area. Hey, this kid needs to hit 0.2 seconds faster in the 100. Can you get him there? Okay, yeah, I can get him there. And then that kid's going to get that scholarship to, Eastern Michigan or Michigan State, or whatever it happens to be. We're looking for kids like that, and not so much a project kid. I'll use cross country references. A high school guy that runs 1930 that I think I can take in 2 years down to 1630. I don't have the time or the staff or resources to be able to do the same thing, in the sprints, the jumps, and the hurdles. So we don't want to do a disservice to kids. If we get to the point where we get a bigger budget to do things, absolutely we'll start getting bigger teams going.
Yeah, I think SC4 is in the same boat. They just started official track and field this year, and when I spoke to their coaches, they both said the same thing. We're starting with the cross country kids we have, putting them in track races, and throwers and jumpers maybe will come later. So we'll see.
So I coach sprints at Warren Mile, and we're fairly good. So I can do sprints. But we, again, like I said, we want to make sure that we're doing it right, and doing a service to a kid, and not damaging our reputation because we're just trying to bring kids in.
Right. You want them to come and have a positive experience and see growth. So that's definitely important.
Yep, exactly.
Well, yes. I see that the Sports and Expo Center is hosting winter indoor track nights. So Tell us about the motivation behind opening the track to the community and how your turnout has been.
Turnout's been great. We've been open all 3 years I've been back. I wanted to really push bringing that back. I remember going there in high school, and then even when I was at Wayne State, when we wouldn't go to the University of Windsor, we'd go to Macomb and do a workout and then post collegiately as well. I think it's important to bring the community in. We have it's I call it organized chaos in there. You got any given day that we're open, you have 6 track clubs in there, probably 3 or 4 high school teams, and just, some 60, 70, 80-year-old men, doing their light jogging around.
Hmm.
So it's like a organized chaos of a sympathy, uh, where we're like, okay, hey, this group is going here, this group's going here. And the coaches that are there do a really good job of making sure that everybody is safe and looking out for everybody, and that it's not just, hey, the fast young kids get to do whatever. They make sure that my 80-year-old guys in there jogging in lane 6 have their spot, and they're not getting ran off the track.
Yeah, I know. I loved indoor track. It was actually my favorite season as a collegiate runner,
Mm,
because there's never any weather and it was
yeah,
always perfect conditions. But we never had 300-meter tracks. We always had 200-meter tracks.
I got
And
that.
yeah, go ahead.
I would say I got that that indoor track
Oh yeah, the cough.
cough going now that
Yeah,
everybody is.
yeah, the dry throat. Yeah, that
Yep.
part. I know. I was talking to my son because he just had his first meet a couple weeks ago. I'm like, did you get like the bleeding lung feeling?
Yeah.
He said, no, it's actually not been as bad. I think facilities that are newer
Mhm,
have a little bit better ventilation than when I ran, and they've kind of tweaked it a bit, so it's not quite
mhm.
so bad. But I know I keep talking about, oh, I'd love to enter a race unattached, but I'm kind of afraid of finishing dead last. So I haven't done it yet, but we'll see. Maybe one
There
day.
you go.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to some personal questions about
Yeah.
you. I'm
Mhm,
curious. I know you mentioned you'd qualified for the Olympic trials for the marathon.
mhm.
Are you still the record holder for your high school cross country record? Because I know you had it at one time.
I did. I am not anymore. I
Okay.
think I only got to enjoy it for 2 years.
Oh,
And then
that's not very long.
no, and then it got taken down,
Okay.
which, it's a it's a nice thing to have it, and you get a little mad when it gets broken, but that means that you set the bar for somebody to break, and
Hmm.
what it took for you to get there uh to break that record, and for somebody to come along and take that out. It's also like, okay, well, hey, hats off to you. You're the next person in line, and
Yeah.
hopefully it just keeps getting a little bit better and better.
Well, are you currently training for any personal running goals for yourself?
Um, yes and no. The kids always ask me, Coach, you're out here running these workouts with us. Why don't you ever race anymore? Uh, it's anytime that I kind of the same thing that you just said. I don't want to. I know where I was finishing before,
Hmm.
with things, and I'm 42 now, so I'm not a spring chicken anymore, so to speak. So
Relatable.
yes, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, I don't want to go out there and make a fool of myself and not be able to do what I think I can still do, or what I was able to do before. You know, uh, Even though you've had athletes in the past few years with you know Serena Williams and
Hmm.
Tom Brady, who seemed to be the only person that could beat Father Time. And even Novak Djokovic, just, besides getting injured in the Australian Open semis, you know, pushing the limits of how far you can really go as an athlete and how old you can really get to and still compete. I mean, yes, I could go out there, compete and win some Masters races, or, win a local 5K. But, to me, if I'm going to go out there, mentally, I'm probably not ready to do that yet.
Hmm.
But one of these days, these kids are going to get through to me, and I'm going to have to sign up for something. I always joke around with them too. I'm like, you don't want me to sign up for a 5K that you're in, because you really don't want to lose to your coach right in front of everybody.
Well, that's a good point.
Yes. So I hold that over their head a little bit. I said, nobody sees in the workouts when you know, you're dogging it in the back, and you should be keeping up with me. I
Right.
said, we go to a track meet and I beat you. Everybody's going to see it.
Yeah, I don't think I would finish dead last, but I mean, unattached at a college meet, I'm
Yeah.
definitely not winning.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that, you always as an athlete, you always have that little bit of the ego to you and the
Yep.
which you need if you're going to be really good and successful. And it's riding that fine line between, having a full-fledged ego and, just having that confidence in yourself. And,
Hmm.
sometimes people can't see that, but you don't know. You're like, oh man, I'm not ready to be done, but
Yep.
my body might think I'm ready to be done.
Yeah,
So
that was the next thing I was going to say. I have all kinds of goals, and then I go try, a speed workout on the track, and my legs are like, you're 45. What do you think you're doing?"
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
reality sets in really fast.
yeah. You also go from the all right, I gotta get my chocolate milk and my Gatorade into, you know what, that glass of wine and that beer looks like a good recovery. There's carbohydrates in there.
Hmm.
So it's figuring out, can you do do I have the time to fully commit to do something? And B, do I have the physical ability to and mental ability, I guess, to want to go to some of those dark places that you have to go to get through
Hmm.
workouts to be
Hmm.
successful. And, some days, you know, what was it, just -20 the other day with the wind chill. It's like
Yep.
10, 15 years ago, I'd be out there running with my shorts and my jacket on. You know what? That treadmill's looking awfully nice today. I'm going to go take that treadmill day.
Yeah. Well, I
Uh,
think that comes with just being smarter.
yeah, that could be too. I've never been confused with a rocket scientist before. So
Well, as you get older, you get smarter and wiser. So
that's what they say.
yeah, I don't run outside, not because of the cold. It's if it's icy. I don't want to slip and fall.
Mhm.
And I know that recovery at my age is a lot different than recovery at 18. So
Also true.
I have to be a little smarter. Although I
Also
do go
true.
back and forth between racing because I think it's good for athletes who are younger to
Mhm.
see you can still run at a higher level no
Mhm.
matter your age and just getting out there and taking a risk. I definitely am not trained for indoor track, but I also run daily. I strength
Mhm.
train, I'm in good shape. So hey,
Yeah.
you only live once, put it
Yeah.
out there, see
Oh,
what happens.
e- exactly. It's just that you always have the watch to be competitive against.
True.
Uh,
True.
so that's the big thing we tell the kids in the program is, look, you're not going to have a great day every day, but that watch doesn't care that you're not having a good day. Just if, if it instead of 20 minutes for the 5K, it might be 21 minutes today, but make sure it's not 22 minutes.
Hmm.
So always have that competitive with that watch.
Yeah. Well, and your speed changes a lot as you age, but
Yes.
muscle memories forever and you can
Yes.
you can run forever, I feel like, if you've been doing it for a long time. So,
Yep.
well, do you have a favorite professional runner?
Um, I was always when I started knowing what running was, I would always, look at like Jim Ryan. I couldn't run the mile to save my life. I did not have the speed, but I would look at him and I would look at Billy Mills and kind of the stuff that they were able to accomplish and especially Billy Mills, just not exactly the most talented runner
Hmm.
throughout his upbringing and whatnot. And just you find a way to push through and you don't worry about who you're racing against or why you shouldn't win. You listen to him talk about positive mindset, and I'm a huge believer in that negative thought takes more energy, um, and has shown to burn more calories than positive energy.
Hmm.
Uh, so if you're going to think negatively, you're bringing your race down as well because you're taking yourself mentally out of it, and physically it's burning a few more calories than if you're just going to be positive. I think going back to my first time at the state meet, I was like, why am I at the state meet? I'm not that good. Look at all these good runners here. I graduated the same year as Dathan did.
Hmm.
Um, and you're just like, I have a picture that I don't even know where it is now. I used to have it hanging in my office where I was staring him down my senior year. It was like I had no chance of beating him, but in my mind I thought, all right, I'm not scared of him this year.
Hmm.
Is what was
You're
going
there. Yeah,
through
you're
my head.
there.
I got a chance.
Yeah.
I think same thing. at the Olympic trials, I think in the back of your mind, you're sitting there thinking, I got a chance to be top three here. But, you start thinking about more and you're like, I'm just not that person. But, hey, I made it to the line. I'm good enough to be here. So
That's
let's
right.
let's go mix it up and see what happens.
That's right. Yeah. If you get there, that's half the battle. So,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah, I'm a big believer in that too. I am always telling my daughter when she'll kind of self-deprecate, I'll say,
Mhm.
okay, but your brain starts believing that. Even
Yeah.
if you're joking, you keep
Hmm.
telling yourself that it's going to take root. So
Yeah.
focus on
It's
the things you can do.
yeah, it's crazy how you can trick yourself into those things.
Hmm. Well, is there anywhere around the world that you would like to go for a run?
Um, man, I think it would be kind of cool to go run some of those famous trails down in Kenya. I've had some friends that have had the opportunity to go down there, and they said it was fun. Surprisingly, I have never been out to Colorado to run. Besides a race, I was kind of fly in, race, and fly out. So I think going and running like Magnolia Road and some of those would be kind of fun as well.
Hmm. Do you have any interest in running Pikes Peak?
No, no,
Me
I don't
neither.
think I have one of my buddies, Tim. He's a pretty high up ultra marathoner and trail racer, and he always tries to get me to go out there and do crazy stuff. Like I'm like, dude, no,
Yeah.
I'm good. Like I'll no, I'm not the tallest guy. I got a good level of gravity, but I'm
Hmm.
not. I'm like running up and down on rocks and all that. Like no, thank you. I'm perfectly fine on the roads and occasionally on the track.
Yeah, I visited Colorado. I had a friend that was living out there. She was finishing up her PhD, and we went to Pikes Peak as tourists, and we got there
Mm.
right as that race was finishing. So they were coming down the hill, and it
Yep.
was painful to watch. Very painful. I can't imagine how painful it was to be running it, but
No.
watching was very awful. So, ooh, no thanks.
Run,
I'll take the
running.
train up and just that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Running all the downhills at Boston's hard enough. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can't imagine going downhill.
Yeah. Have you done Boston?
Yeah, I think like five-ish times.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
that is I've never ran well there.
I think
I've
that's
just
very hard to do, even for professional athletes.
yeah, I've
So,
every time I've gone there I've just had a terrible race blown up and just
mm,
it was over before I think one time I made it to the top of the Newton Hills
hmm.
and it was over as soon as I got to the top. I was like, oh man, I can't even get in 3 miles. This is how am I gonna get in?
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
ran it once when it was 95 degrees.
mm,
So that was fun.
yeah,
And
that's
then I
no.
did it about, let's see, 8 years later, and it was like 45 and sunny. That was
Mm,
perfect. So that was a good race. I had a good race that year, but yeah, 2004, I think it was. It was the hottest Boston on record.
oof.
It was terrible. And we started at noon.
Oh,
So they moved, that was the year they decided we should probably move the start time up. And then they started doing waves instead of just one
mm,
mass start.
yep.
So yeah,
Yeah, that was
but
like
still.
I did the one year it was the nor'easter was out there,
Oh,
and
no.
yeah, I went from running 5:15 pace to six flat and ended up on the back page of the Boston Globe with in a wheelchair looking like I was dead.
Oh,
That
no.
was so bad. And
Yeah.
then, obviously that 2016 Olympic trials out in LA where they thought it
Mm-hmm.
was a great idea to start that in LA at noon.
Mm-mm.
Uh, such a, I don't, lot of thoughts on that race.
I'm sure that had to do more with television than
Oh yeah.
actual running. So,
Yeah, there was a lot of just dumb stuff at that
yeah.
Olympic trials.
Ugh, that's
Food
terrible.
and food and beverage for all the VIPs, but nothing for the athletes right after the race. So
Oh, how convenient.
can I just get a water? No? Okay,
Oh,
thanks.
yeah. Hopefully things have changed for the better. I think people are
I'm
starting
hoping
to
so.
realize, yeah. Oof. Well, on that note, is there anyone living or from the past that's perhaps no longer alive that you would have wished you could have chatted with on a run?
Um, Probably most people's answer, I guess, probably Prefontaine.
Hmm.
Just to try and get inside that guy's head if you could. And just, you hear all the stories of, what he was able to do and go through. And then you hear some of the stuff that he did, in his personal life and things of that nature outside of running. And you're just like, man, how are you able to be that good? And you're doing all this other crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like what in the world, was going through your head, or, talk to him about the, just the new shoe technology and how far advanced it is from, thinking about making shoes in a waffle iron.
Yep.
So now we got carbon plates in shoes, and, before you go race, you got to get your spikes inspected or your racing flats inspected, make sure there's, that they're legal and whatnot, and just
Mm-hmm.
how far we've come with that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of, I guess, chatter about super shoes and how it's changed times, and nobody really knows, what would it be without it. So it's always interesting with technology, how it changes the sport.
Yeah. I think, those the shoes and spikes, I never thought that they'd make that big of a difference, but I ran with a pair of them last year, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. I didn't just run 18 miles. I feel like I ran 4.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it was the first time that I'd ever put on a pair of them, and I was like, now I get it. Now I know why people wear these things and spend the crazy amounts of money on them that they spend.
Yeah, I was always of the mindset like, well, you still have to run that far and you still have to run fast, but I guess I just didn't realize how much different it affected your recovery. So if you can not be as tired, of course you can recover better, and then it just exponentially increases what you can do. So then I realized, oh yeah, that's definitely not a fair advantage.
Yeah. I think it's definitely the recovery, and like you said, you can't fake running a 10K, can't fake run a marathon or even a 5K. But the recovery factor is the huge part.
Right. Well, it's not going to make a difference for me. So I'm well past that point in my life. Yeah. Well, Matt, once again, thank you so much for helping just chat about your team and what your goals are and your vision. And it's really a great insight into, the Macomb Community College's focus moving forward. And maybe this will pull some kids in that had been giving it a thought, but weren't quite decided.
I hope so.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like you've got a lot of great things on the docket and more to come, and, see what happens in the next few years. But I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to talk with me. And it was fun to hear all things running.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'll leave you today with a quote from the late, great Steve Prefontaine, who would have celebrated his 74th birthday on January 25th. To give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift. Once again, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you missed any of the episodes this year, be sure to check them out on our website at bluewaterrunning.org or by searching for the Blue Water Running Podcast on your favorite podcasting app. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share, subscribe, and leave a review. If you'd like to partner with Blue Water Running to sponsor the work of highlighting the achievements of local athletes or to advertise your business, please reach out via the website or social media links. Sponsorship options offer a range of benefits, including podcast and website ads, social media shoutouts, and more.